archives purposes. Maybe Julia can suggest to do something in afterwards with these materials, with this filmmaking perspective. Well, hello, Bernard. Very nice to see you.
Okay, now we are recording.
Perfect.
Maybe you can watching your.
Perfect. Okay, we are here now, and I think it's time to start. Well, this is the second day of our 16th International Conference of Sociocybernetics, we titled The Pandemic Era, Observations and Reflections from Sociocybernetic Perspective. We thank everyone who joined this call. And yesterday, Raiha will comment on that. She will give a short summary of the contents. We have a day dedicated to introducing Sociocybernetics with two key speakers and different participation from our members. And today will be oriented to COVID-19, a second-order observation. This session focuses on analysis and particularly empirical analysis of what different members who are presenting have observed in their own specific context. So we will have a very interesting session. Yesterday, we have already some of these COVID-oriented interventions because we wanted to distribute in an even number for the participants. That's why Saburo was asked to participate yesterday, but today I mean, it's dedicated to this topic, and feel free to engage as yesterday we did. So I give Raiha the mic, and after that, Jaime Marcuello from Universidad de Zaragoza will chair the session. We'll keep the time, and we'll mention before the start the instructions for the presenters. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia, and hello to everyone. I reckon we have now 20 participants at the moment, so our amount is increasing, I guess, during the first minutes here. I think in the program it's a bit of an ambitious title to have a summary from yesterday's discussions, but it's going to be more like a personal reflection to what I actually heard, and as Patricia was saying, so we really had the first day of the conference to get an introduction to sociocybernetics and those analytical perspectives, and in that sense it was very, very important to have sort of space enough for both focused presentations on that topic, and then also further discussion. But as for the program, so I'm very glad that we could start with listening to Sari Hanafi as ISA president to give us a view on sociology at the moment, or the themes related to COVID-19 and so on, and I mean also in the sense of institutions and organizations. So I think it's an important thing to have ISA president involved in our committee and in these activities. And then very quickly moving in the program to the core of sociocybernetics with the inaugural intervention on systemic perspectives and sociocybernetics by Bernard Scott. And here I want to share a very personal reflection, because my first contact to this community of sociocyberneticians was actually in Yokohama, and I was so impressed with the way of people being present and listening to each other, and Bernard is so amazing. I mean, in his opening words, but then also after that, being part of the discussion continuously, as you noticed, giving replies and advice for books and so on. So I think it's just so illustrative for our RC51 community that it's actually working also in this kind of online environment, this kind of a strong presence. So this is something I've felt and found in Yokohama in the ISA conference, and was eager to find my place in this community, and I'm happy to be a member. So this is more like a personal reflection, but I just wanted to share this with you because now we have both old members of RC51 and then newcomers, and as I can see Andrew chatting there, so Yokohama also first for him. So we hope to have more people joining us, and that was actually one of the aspects raised in many presentations yesterday after the opening speeches, the kind of how sociology as one discipline, but then sociocybernetics has also become more and more current due to pandemic and due to the state of the world at the moment. So I really enjoyed the aspects raised yesterday from combining the abstract type of thinking, very theoretical thinking, and then being at the same time interested in very concrete phenomena and being able to go between these two levels, like from micro to macro and so on. So I think that's absolutely one of the strengths in sociocybernetics, being genuinely interested in very profound theoretical ideas with an openness to all kinds of perspectives. I mean, there's always another perspective, as Bernard says. So I think somehow the richness of this kind of thinking was very much present in yesterday's both presentations and then the discussions shared after those. Actually, this is very pretty much the things I wanted to share with you, and maybe the final word could be joy, because I think there's a lot of joy in being able to share these kind of discussions with each other. So let's continue with that spirit, and very, very much looking forward to an interesting session today. So thank you for my part.
Thank you, Reija. And now Jaime Marcuello gets the mic, and he will tell us about the instructions. I think most of you have the program. He will give us the order of the speeches, and we can have a look. I will put it also in the chat. Go ahead, Jaime, and thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you very much, Patricia. And thank you, everybody, for being there. And in this second day, we have 7 papers, and we have divided the session into 2 parts. In the first one, we have 4 papers, and I suggest to each of our presenters to take care about 10 minutes, no more, and I suggest 8 minutes to make the presentation, 5, it's recommended, and up to 10 to make comments and debates of everybody. So if we are on time, I suggest to make a break around after the 4 first papers, and in the second part we will have the 3rd papers, the 3 next papers. In this first part, we will have first Margarita Mas Moreno from UNAM, Mexico. She will present the paper. It's in Spanish. I hope, Margarita, you will do it in English, because if not, many of our colleagues will not understand anything. La emergencia de la pandemia del COVID en personas adultas mayores. La propuesta, well, she will translate into English. In the second position is Philip Altman and Katiuska King, COVID-19 and Imaginary Differentiation in Ecuador. In the third position, Sara Castiglioni, Innovativeness of Judiciary Power, the Role of Pandemic as a Game Changer. And finally, in the first session, in the first part, Raiha Koskinen, a chance to rediscover respect for nature in the field of education, Finnish experiences of COVID-19 spring. In the second part, I will present Czeslaw, Juancho, and Pepe. So I suggest to spend 10 minutes for each paper and after debate. And if you are over the time, I will make a noise or I will make a horrible to tell you that I am here and and Czeslaw will wake up then. And so no more introduction. Margarita, it's your time. When you have 8 minutes, I will suggest to finish. At 10 minutes, we have to finish in any case. Go on, Margarita.
Yes?
Sí, ahora, ya.
Now you hear me. Perfect. Okay, I will read.
Yeah, but we don't see you.
Okay. Well, I will talk about the emergence of COVID-19, a pandemic, in order to adults, in older adults, and to present a proposal from Sociocybernetics and cyberculture for the post-pandemic stage. As of mid-July 2020, we are still locked down in Mexico after 4 months because COVID-19, and the data and trends in our country are very sad and unfortunate. The pandemic is not only a health crisis, as we see yesterday, it is a systemic complex problem, and it is a global issue. In my complete presentation, I present all data about Mexico's situation, but here the question is how the pandemic has affected all the adults, particularly in Mexico. The virus affects particularly them, as well as people regarded as vulnerable due to chronic and degenerative disease, not only because they're contagious, but because of the complication in hospitals treatment, leading to the likely death. The mortality rate increases exponentially from 65 and more. During the confinement of COVID-19 pandemic, the daily forms of social relation in Mexico and the world were forcibly modified. New ways of working, seeing, listening, hugging, and laughing appear on the scene, taking advantage of the offer of digital technology to offset the difficulties of continuing our daily routines and activities. Regarding digital devices use, we can say that the adaptation to these technologies was easy for young people. Whatever, for older people, it was not so, generating a wider technological gap between those who have access and ability to use technological device, the younger generation, and those who do not, especially in some developing countries. We present results of interviews carried out during the COVID-19, referring to the relationship between grandparents and grandchildren during the pandemic and the effect of technology on these intergenerational processes. The hardest results are related with these ideas. First, side effects for older adults who have shown symptoms of signs of loneliness, depression, isolation, and forgetfulness of their relatives. Until now, they have had a higher level of difficulty to take advantage of the opportunity that this digital technology provides for communication with those closest to them. Technology has not been democratized, and it is not within the reach of all social groups, and in particular, far from those who were not born with it. Likewise, likewise, far from all adults who have lived their childhood and adolescence with other social and technological dynamics. Then, my second question was how sociocybernetics, as the science of self-organization, should help us to observe this social complex crisis as a second-order observation, especially the relationship among generations. If sociocybernetics is the social self, is the science of self-organization, we have the opportunity to apply sociocybernetics to think about new collective ways to stay together. The fundamental principles of sociocybernetics is self-referentiality, systemic circularity, and second-order observation. In this sense, we think that technology is an arrow with strength and power, with origin and destiny, and with intentionality. It is not an ideological neutral. The peripheral countries use it thoughtfully and in our favor as generative platform information and communication processes to generate knowledge. That is one of the major challenges of the cyberculture. Then, as a proposal from Sociocybernetics and Cyberculture, we propose a new way of organizing ourselves collectively with intergenerational actions to use technology in our favor. The idea is to form and guide intergenerational family communities that reflect on the fundamental principle of sociocybernetics as self-referentiality and systemic circularity. Then I have taken the sociocybernetic concept as self-organization, self-management, self-knowledge, self-reflection, self-reference, autopoiesis, in order to reflect with them intergenerational groups closely. Then, about my closest group was my family group, obvious. Originally, we were in the first reflection space with 56 individuals, 87 years old, the oldest, and only 2 months old, the youngest, representing 4 different generations. The participation and reflections were intensive, 6 hours, with excellent results. This presentation is a second-order reflection, not today, and this research is now still ongoing. Finally, I just want to add that Mexico needs to gain degrees of self-determination and empowerment as a society. Sociocybernetics and cyberculture theoretical frame will help us to do it. This global and local crisis of COVID-19 is an opportunity to modify our ways to being in the world. Thank you.
Okay, Margarita, thank you very much. We are in a perfect time. Now we can open the floor to some comments about the paper of the presentation of Margarita. She prepared a video, and you can see the video in the website of the Sociocybernetics website. And Now, if you have a question or comment about Margarita, it's the moment. Any?
Yeah, me.
Okay, perfect. Go.
Yeah, thank you, Margarita. I really like your presentation. I think it's really important what you're talking about, and I do agree to a large. I do agree a lot. But I do have one central question, which has to do exactly with the idea of digital divide, because well, the older generation does not have as much access to the internet, to social media and so on, which leads, at least here in Ecuador, to a diffusion of fake news, of lies, of misinformation, especially through older people who don't. Well, I think they don't really have the tools to understand what news are fake and what news are not fake. So when I talk with people plus 50 or plus 60, they sometimes do have information that does not lead to self-organization. I don't want to spend time with them because they are talking stuff that's simply not true. Do you get me? And
Yes.
how would you overcome this problem in order to get a more efficient self-organization with older generations?
Well, in Mexico, the problem is big. No, I don't know in Ecuador, but I suppose it's more or less the same. The idea is to use technologies to generate our own knowledge, no, in order to organize our life. No, we have something to say to the world, no, around, because all the time, all Latin American countries, particularly Mexico, we are, I don't know how to say, a country, ¿cómo se dice? Dominated, or I don't know how to say.
Say it in Spanish, we will translate.
Ok. En realidad nosotros hemos sido siempre un país colonializado, dominado, un país, lo podríamos decir, maquilero, ¿no? Que tiene muchísimas ideas, pero por cuestiones globales hemos sido, digamos, pertenecemos al mundo que obedece, no que manda. No sé si estoy contestando. Y en ese...
Margarita, if you talk
perdón.
so long in Spanish, there are many people that don't understand anything. I think
Yes.
Margarita is trying to say there is Mexico is suffering the domination of some others. It's the colonial, and probably are the Spanish, the horrible people who conquest the country. No, I make a joke, but Margarita is talking about there is a logic of domination, no, and Mexico is always maquila is the local name to
do.
Yeah, and what more?
To ensembling pieces, this kind of work distribution. Well, can I make a question comment? Do we have time?
Yes. Si quieres completar.
I follow.
No sé si entiendes mi idea, Pati.
Sorry. I follow.
No, si entiendes la idea que quiero decir.
I follow Philip comment, and I think in relation of it's very difficult to make particular elder people to understand that what they get, because they use a lot. I see it with my within my community. They use a lot this, and WhatsApp is burning, no, since COVID. And I am in my WhatsApp family group only because my grandmother is there, so she can see me. She's in Mexico, and I get very impressed of the things she has to read because other people put their other information. So I think I think Margarita's project is interesting, but the challenge is how we, at that stage of life, how we engage in an intergenerational critical news reading. I mean, critical, and the worst part is that my uncles are the ones spreading those fake news. So, and that's kind of socio-cybernetic challenge, because it's a trustable source. Of course, my grandmother believes that, and now it's COVID, but before, you name the news. I mean, there's always have been fake news in my family WhatsApp group. But how do we engage critically and systemically to not to digest for them, so give them the real truth, but to make them critical at this moment of their life, no? That we will think, oh, maybe there's not much energy, or maybe we're just have to rethink a way where they are not looked down because they are elder, but looked at the same. That's a challenge, and I think it requires critical thinking, requires a lot of topics that we are developing. It requires a critical socio-cybernetic approach also for the media system that we are holding and reproducing, and also a practical participatory research thing, no? Because who is more critical, the one in his 30s, the one in his 20s, or is that just society is becoming really acritical with this fake news? I like Philippe approach, and I think Margarita's project has a interesting challenge there. We will look forward to see how it develops. That's my comment.
Oh, a last sentence for Margarita, and we have to move for the next speaker. Margarita, your last sentence in this part of the session.
Yes, the idea is we be convinced that intergenerational relationship help us to lessen the effects of the pandemic in older adults to improve their quality of life. This is the idea.
Okay, thank you very much, Margarita. We are still over the time. I think we can spend 15 minutes for each paper, but talking for the presenter 8 to 10 minutes, no more, and the rest for comments, and then we will enjoy more the session.
Sorry for the interruption. Just to remind you that in the chat, there might be people putting that they want to participate. For instance, but I just,
but no, there are no.
Ignore.
Okay, Ilnur, one short comment and then.
Short comment.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Margarita. It's very interesting research we are doing. But what I'm thinking, it's the generational differences. It's not depends on only different generations, because the certain rules being set by decision makers, and sometimes it is unequal decisions made, and they say, no, you are not able to go outside because you are at this age, but you are younger, you are allowed to go. And then all these things they altered, and then other time they start going out, but in fact they could easily bring some other things home, the youngest generation, to the elders. And I did a kind of questionnaire and a survey doing with over 600 students of mine, and how they approached generational gaps and how they were applying the certain rules in their home. And there are big differences, and I think it's very interesting, your research, and I've been looking forward to seeing your results. Thank you, Margarita. It just
thank you.
Saying that it's not depends on only our decisions. Like in Habitat Istanbul, it was saying that locals are important, global looking it's important as well. Now we are deciding locally as well in our cities and in our countries but there are global decisions as well, and sometimes they are wrong. And we are holding back different generations without reason, but thinking that it's true. The truth has to be observed as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ignor.
Maybe after at the end of the session we can talk about this. So
okay, thank you.
Next speakers are Philip Allman and Katiuska Kim. Their presentation is about COVID-19 and imaginary differentiation in Ecuador. So Philip and Katiuska, the mic is your hands, and no more than 10 minutes and better 8 minutes, and after talking about 15 for comments and other. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, hi to all. Well, let me talk a bit about what is my idea with this idea of imaginary differentiation. I'm moving on a basis of Lumanian system theory. So sorry for the other socio-cybernetic approaches. And I am living and working on, well, Ecuador and Latin America. So the general picture of the society in the global south, at least in Latin America, is kind of a problem for Luhmann and system theory, just because, as Sarah also already said yesterday, systems never really worked here. The differentiation doesn't really work the same way as it does in Europe here. This is due to a different way of historical differentiation, which has to do with colonialism, which has to do with racism, internal colonialism. There are a lot of concepts. Coloniality of power also has to do it with this problem. So actually, we never really had a complete differentiation in the Lumanian sense as Germany or Europe or Northern America has. This means that here in the continent we have a predominance of organizations. Organizations are more important, and especially informal organizations are more important than elsewhere, which sometimes can be translated as corruption, but doesn't need to be translated as corruption. The problem is that organizations usually are stronger and more influential than, well, functional systems. It's not about politics, but it's about parties, for instance. So we do have this tendency to informality, which tends to be destructive for functional differentiation. And we have a tendency to allopoiesis, as Neves calls it. The idea that functional systems are not autopoietic, but allopoietic, that someone else reproduces them. In my reading, that would be organizations. Politics isn't made by political communications connecting to each other, but it is made by political actors. So we fall back into a pre-post constructive view of the world, which is a really problem on an epistemological level. Well, however, so if we do have this imaginary differentiation, which works like as a game of as if, so politics is working as if politics would be autopoietic, even if it obviously is not, and so on and so on. The mass media do work as if they would produce and reproduce news, even if they don't, and so on. This leads to a reduced ability, or maybe even a reduced willingness to observe the environment. We have a lack of sensitivity towards the environment. So the different systems are unable or unwilling, I don't know, to respond adequately to what is happening outside of them. They cannot observe, for instance, politics, cannot observe science. They have a really, really hard time to include scientific knowledge into their decision-making, which on the level of the government as an organization, there we are again, actually is quite observable. So we have at the moment a big wave of distribution of bleach to everyone, because bleach kills the virus. It's like time traveling back to April with Trump saying, why don't we inject bleach to people? It's the same thing here. 3 months later, it's like, what happens? Well, all this idea of imaginary differentiation, that everyone acts as if they would be differentiated, as if the different systems would work on their own terms, autopoietically, self-determinant, etc., this leads to problems of adaptation. They really have a hard time to adapt what is happening outside. So what in the global north, this crisis meant a centralization, that politics become like the main system, and there is an allopoiesis, but starting from politics to other different parts, to other different systems, like science is suddenly serving politics, economy suddenly depends on politics, which is, maybe you read the text from Stichweh or Nassé, who wrote just that in the German case. Here, that doesn't work, just because of imaginary differentiation. We do not have a centralization. We do more likely have a informalization of society. And well, this in concrete means that we do have a government, we do have mass media and other organizations that are unable or unwilling to respond to, for instance, scientifically knowledge or to social demands. Now, Katiuska will complete with some concrete data. Please, Katiuska.
Yes, I am here. Hello to everybody. With Philip, we are conducting a research that consists of self-administered questionnaires that are distributed using different methodologies through phone messages and in different parts of the country, not only in Quito. And this process started at the end of May and finished yesterday. And it's important to say that some facts and some that are happening here. Now there is a current obsession to reactivate the economy, and authorities are minimizing what is happening in the hospitals, especially in Quito, and also denying what they have done in terms of facilitating layoffs. And for this, they have a famous sentence saying legality has been surpassed by reality. And these have produced many layoffs, and the results in our questionnaire is that the preliminary data, because we have used not the definitive data, is that the 4 of 10 households have at least one person affected on employment conditions because of COVID, without considering self-employed workers that are very important in our societies. And then it's high. In terms of education, authorities did not consider the internet access in scattered areas, and they offer a bond to pay for private schools. And the result is that almost 5 of 10 households with students have uncertainty or will make a change in the regime of education of their children. They will change, they will make a temporary retirement, a change in school, or will wait for physical classes. In terms of information, they have done many information sessions during the day, especially during the confinement. They have done like 3 or 4 during the same day, but even we have found in the preliminary data that there is a lack of proper information, and 97% of the people who ask the questionnaire don't have proper information about COVID. We will describe this a little bit more, but it's very high, the kind of misinformation that people have. And the last part is that last week they have sent a short list of vice president, because the last vice president, the third in this period, got renounced, and they have sent a list to the assembly, and two of the three people are responsible for all of this, mess, have been part of all of this mess, and they are part of this list. And it is like they are not thinking what is happening. And we found in terms of in the data that households' opinion on government is bad. They think that 4 or 5 people think that the government management of the crisis has been bad and very bad. Then they are not in contact with what is happening, and they don't. It seems that they don't care about. That's it.
Okay, you spent more or less 10 minutes. Now we have 5 minutes to comments, questions. Anybody wants to make the question to Philip or Katiuska? It's open, the floor. If you want to talk, it's now easy. But, well, maybe I have to make a question about the to introduce. But I have a question now. Ecuador is now changed the government recently. No, it's like from one side to other side. Correa was the former president, and now you are in the other side. It's like a coin, no? You change the coin, and it has any. Oh, Marcus Petri. I can't get my microphone. Well, if you have to make a question, maybe I can. Just a second. Okay. Well, my point is, it's important that the new government, well, the change of the government to think in practice these points or not. If you go to the floor and you say, okay, we are talking about autopoiesis, allopoietic, blah blah blah, but what happens when you think in Correa or the current governor or president? Is important or not? Maybe Philip or Katiuska.
Well, I think it's really important because it tells us a lot about how the state as an organization, as a government, as a part of this organization does work. Because, well, starting with Luhmann, the idea is that legitimation comes through processes. But in this case of the government here, the legitimation of the actual government of now comes from a rejection to the former government. They all the time say the former government produced a lot of debt. Now we can't act. The former government did everything wrong. Now we are in a great mess and we can't handle it. So it's like really interesting, actually, because think about a government in another part trying to argument like that. It would be like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Any other comment? Maybe Marcus, did you open your microphone? No comments in the chat. Well,
wait. Marcus, you cannot open, or you just is the technical problem from us, or is that you pass your chance? You can also place questions in the
Bernard
would like to say something.
Yes, of course.
I just put a chat message in saying I'm fascinated by this idea of the functional differentiation not really applying. And of course, there are many states around the world where this seems to be pretty obvious. But also, I'm just wondering, as a kind of generalization, that even in those countries where we could see the functional differentiation, working fairly smoothly, that we do not know what's happening behind the scenes. There are power elites and hidden actors that we don't know about who are dictating. I'm moving into conspiracy theories a bit here, but there are conspiracy theories that say that there are hidden hands behind what's happening. Not everything is necessarily a kind of rationally evolved society. Just a comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment or question?
Yes, I'd like to make a quick comment. So yeah, Philip, thank you very much. Well, thank you both of you for your talk. One thing you were saying, Philip, which is, as somebody from the UK, it's easy for me to forget that perhaps Luhmann's theory does have trouble with the global south due to, as you said, perhaps colonialism or racism or other factors. From my own experience here in Kumamoto, I know a couple of social scientists from Papua New Guinea and an engineer from the Solomon Islands. And when I've spoken to them about Luhmann's theory and my applications of it, not that they're surprised at Luhmann's theory, but they're flummoxed at how they would try to apply it to their own societies. My social scientist friends from Papua New Guinea talk about how, I suppose in Luhmannian terms, it's still a very segmented society. It's still a very tribal society. They're still dealing with things like having a general rule and order across the country, trying to stop things like witchcraft. So it's in some ways very difficult for me to talk about this concept of world society that Luhmann proposes when Papua New Guinea is still extremely tribal. So it's, yeah, what you've said here, I see Papua New Guinea as even perhaps for lower levels of, or more stratified and segmented than perhaps for the Latin American countries you've mentioned there.
Okay, 1 minute, Philip, maybe if you want to tell something or to talk.
Well, thank you for your comments. It's really great to hear you all, and which seemingly what we are doing is interesting. Just one general idea that already has been my idea before. I think we need to take into focus much more the organizations. If you only focus on functional systems, it's nice and interesting and so on, but there are organizations that are really, really important, especially here in the Global South, but also in the Global North. You don't have to go to the extreme of conspiracy theory, but there actually are organizations that are well known and that do exist, and you have to study them. You cannot just like take them for granted and that's it. Politics is politics, but really politics is a lot of actors and organizations are part of them. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Katiuska, do you want to tell something to finish or?
Jaime, there's a question on the chat. I just put it on the very end so you can read it. And also Philip and Katiuska. There's a comment, but also goes with a question if you want to take it.
Oh, yes.
From Ryan Martinez. Thank you, Ryan. And I just pasted here because it was on the top.
Okay. So what I do? Katiuska, last sentence or a move, or we consider this question in the chat? Well, Katiuska.
Okay, I wanted only to say that to complement what Philip told, I am about what is happening with Correa and Moreno, and I think that there is also something very interesting about the blame and some related to religion, and then you have to find a blame of everything, and then the blame in this case, as Philip said, was Correa, and then what Bernard said also, what is happening behind the scenes is also related to debt and to bond, what is happening also in terms of renegotiating debt in internal terms. And this is something that can be described or can be analyzed later, but there is true that there are many things that are happening behind the scenes.
Okay, so there are some comments in the chat. Everybody can read it. I think we have to move for the next speaker, and after, if we have time, we can recover these points and questions in the last part of the session. Okay, now, thank you very much, Katiuska, and thank you very much, Philip. And now is the time for Sara Castiglioni, Innovativeness of the Judiciary Power, the role of the pandemic as a game changer. As you know, we have now 10 minutes for you, more or less better 8, and until 15 to comments and questions. It's your time. Go ahead.
Thank you. I will try to share my, never allow. I will try to share my screen with you, so please be patient. I'm not very good at this. Are you seeing my screen yet?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, okay, super. So I hope you had the chance to see my video, and I will start saying as if, as Philippe and Katiuska used. I thought they were talking about Argentina, but no, they were talking about Ecuador, but many things are related. And when I start talking about innovativeness and the justice system at the same time, many people thought it was an oxymoron. I thought during the night and after seeing all of your videos, I thought, how can I add value to this group? So I am going to use a different kind of presentation and try to add some different flavors using some stuff you present in your videos. So when we talk about the challenge we have here, I feel very much related with the comments of Margarita, because when she talks about intergenerational and other adults, think that most of our judges are these older adults. So the problem we have here is that some of them are very keen on using technology and others are not. But that's not the only problem we have. Now we have cybercrime, we have many different things that were not there when they study. And the main problem is that by law here, you cannot oblige a judge to study. They need to want to study, you cannot oblige them. Because if we think in terms of hierarchy, you have God, then you have the judge. So imagine what happened to them when the viruses arrives. So this question, I was thinking and reflecting on how does the pandemic influence the way of learning of the judiciary power operators. It's very interesting because we are not talking about an heterogeneous group. It's more like a continuous, and you have innovators and you have the old dinosaurs. And in between, you have everything, and they learn in different ways. Another thing I found looking at your videos and reading is what Cheslab calls the bias of ignorance. They don't know what they don't know. So when in my findings, when I ask them, they say, we adapted, I am adapted, the system adapted. And I say, but you adapted to what? And when I analyze the things they got adapted to, they mention technology, communications, and remote work. But you are going to say, Sarah, you're talking about things that the rest of the world is using from many years ago. And I say, yes, but they were not there. Imagine that in the mind of these people, everything they have can be represented in their chair. The chair, the same chair I'm sitting at. All the power was in that chair. This is my chair, this is my team, these are my rules, these are my sentences. Now, I take the chair from them, they have to work from home. Most of them didn't have computer. So imagine that they have to do remote work without a computer. Technology, how they got that technology. And when Margarita talked again about intergenerational, I remember that they say the young people working for me, not with me, young people working for me is helping me. So most of them still don't see the team, they don't see the relations. So adding to that, we have a very big problem during pandemic that is associated with the lack of trust they already had. And these things that Philippe and Katiuska were talking about, misinformation, you could see that because the first day when in Argentina they declared the pandemic, in all media you could see that these people were on something called feria, that in our minds is related to vacation. Everything was closed and they say they were not working. Many days after, they start working in different ways and adapting to the change. And what I found really interesting is that the different groups relate to that in different ways. And I found really interesting how they learn. And I found two different patterns: judiciary learning, sorry about my English, and the other type of learning that many scholars call instrumental. The two groups, the decision makers and the adopters in general, use the instrumental way of learning. I would say, okay, I learned how to get into the Zoom. I don't know how it works. I don't know how this appeared in my phone just because somebody put it there. Well, the ones who really learn to learn in a second order way are the pioneers, early adopters, and the implementation groups. These guys and girls really made it because they have to take a whole amount of knowledge and give it to the adopters and the decision makers in a really, really fast manner. Fortunately, what we often call change resistance, here they didn't have a chance to resist. Because when I talk about vulnerability, this group didn't want to show vulnerability. So they say, okay, I have to do it, I will do it. I will be the champion, I will do it. But they are not quite there yet. And as I say, pandemic accelerates the implementation processes, but they are not innovating. Only some of them, and the groups I mentioned on the left, are innovating. And not only, the problem is not only on the technological side of the question, also as Juancho mentioned, all of the three symptoms were experienced by them. And another great problem that Jorge raises yesterday was that they didn't saw the risk coming. It hits them. They were not aware of the situation. Only the provinces or states that were more advanced in terms of technology could be in a better position. Well, as a conclusion, I say that a set of, this set a new baseline, which can be used as a springboard to co-create and implement the changes as innovations required to fulfill society's claim for justice. And yesterday, after giving it some thought, I remember the concept of leapfrogging, and I think this will be very useful here. What this says is we cannot teach them like every baby step to take them from here where we are now to here where we have to be. They have to leapfrog. So I would use my my springboard to help them leapfrogging, and using Chaime's ship metaphor, I would say now they know they have a ship and we need at least a plane, but the rest of the world is trying to go to Mars and we cannot go with a plane. So we have to keep thinking and keep helping them to get there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and Sarah. And now is the time for the floor. We can start with some questions. Well, I try to make a joke. I don't know if in English, if I may, is you say in Argentina is first God and after the judge, but maybe it's Perón or Cristina Kirchner, no? There is something, and that's similar in every country around the world. No, there is God, something below. It's not exactly the judge. It's sometimes it's the government. No, it's in the case of Argentina. Sometimes what happens with the last the last judge killed by someone. I don't know what happened. If well, it's only a joke. If you have any question, it's the moment to ask to Sarah. And if you have, if you thank you, okay. Who wants to start?
I could just mention, thank you, Sarah. I just posted on the chat an interesting study in terms of the changes in the Finnish judicial system. Vaula Haavisto made an activity, if you know the activity theoretical approach, the kind of a study of learning in that specific environment. So that is in English through the link available, the whole publication, just for your information.
Thank you very much.
For the interesting study. Yeah.
I am taking note and I took a picture. I will come back to Jaime's joke. It was a fiscal, it's not a judge. It's the one who's supposed to investigate what was going on. He was killed. They say he killed himself. No, he did. Obviously, he did not. And some weeks ago, the secretary of Christina Kirchner, our last president, the one Jaime is addressing, also was found killed. So we have a problem there, a very big one. And the problem I was mentioning of learning, they have to want. You cannot oblige them. And if you see statistics, many of them don't even go to courses. They don't go to university anymore because they are there. They are next to God, so they don't need it. That's why it's so difficult to bring new ideas. Okay, the world is going that way. You should go that way. But well, we are working on that.
Okay, any other comment or question? Silent? Ilnur, okay, go.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah and Philip and Katka. I would like to give a comment starting with Andrew's yesterday's comment. He was mentioning about risk management, disaster management, and the phases of the disasters, which we observe it in different countries. Each country observes and labels it differently. Some says it's hazard, some of them say it's danger, some of them say it's disasters. Whatever it is, as we know, it changed as a theoretical way in time. But if I would like to remind Matei Doğan's book of elite configuration of power. If we look at that, each country and the power is in the hand of different people. And in the process, it changed. If I take it from Philip's talk, power changes, but the regeneration, it's not occurring sometimes because some people, some politicians, they are following the risk management, and others, they are behind it and stays in the disaster management side, which is, in fact, in the process of the line, it's change and shift to the future observed or possible observable disasters and links to decisions about them. What we are seeing is, as I can say from Sarah's point of view, we think that everything is responsibility of the people in the hierarchy or elites or the politicians. In fact, we have to increase our knowledge and awareness about it. If we are powerful enough to know our ability to act and to get together and to give advices about what we are observing, we will become much more powerful. Like you were saying, judge say, this person is helping me. Maybe it's in fact doing the rest of the work, but the label depends on the judge. Why I am saying this? Because we observed it in Turkey too, because as we know that as a group, medical staff, they become in front in other occupational groups, but they were not allowed to leave, decide to work or leave. In some countries, they had to work. Otherwise, they will be not allowed about insurance and pensioner and other sides. This is changing from country to country. Therefore, I am saying if the judge groups and the other people in the helpers and the insurance companies, as a sociologist, we were not prepared for such a kind of pandemic or such a kind of disaster. We have to foresee these kind of occurrences because we will face more in the future, what I can say. Therefore, the preparedness, mitigation, and the rest of the stages of the disasters, or if you call hazards and dangers, it depends on the labeling, but contexts are changing as well. I don't want to go through that. But this is our all responsibility. And if we give this responsibility to only politicians, we lose our power to control them or put pressure on them. We have to be aware of our power and ability to study and put in front of them what's going on. Therefore, I would like to thank you because all different topics is colliding together. But I think we have to look through Matei Doğan's that book, Elite Configurations of Power, which is much more occurring at this moment with the pandemic, because some countries, they are putting bans in certain things and they are using as a pressure reason to pressurize some groups or put some of them much more freer positions. And it's changing, but it's affecting all of us. If somebody is going to find a vaccine, who are going to use the first? Are they going to use it in Africa, like in HIV? Or are they in AIDS? Or are they who is going to able to use that after these first trials? Who is going to sell it? Do we have enough money to buy it? It's a kind of different types of inequalities, and we have to be ready these kind of things more, because the pandemics will not be able to finish maybe because of the astronomical occurrences is happening. And if the magnetism is affecting whole world, why it's not affecting our own body's aura? Sorry.
Hello.
Thank you. I think I did a long speech. Sorry.
Maybe you gave us a new lecture about the topic.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
We have to finish to move to the next speaker. But first, Sarah, if you want to say a very short sentence before to finish your presentation or a comment or nothing, is your time.
Okay, just a small comment. We know the theory, we know the field, we can do more, but we have to relate to them, the judges, the politician, or whoever, in a language they understand. In my opinion, our language is still too pretentious for them. We know the field, we have been there, we have to go there and try to make something with them, because we are talking about a second order or observation, but we are in the system, so we can work from within the system. That's all.
Thank you very much for everybody, and blah, 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 blah. And now is the time for the fourth, Raiha Koskinen is the last speaker in this first part of the session. Raiha will talk about a chance for the discovered respect for nature in the field of education, Finnish experiences of COVID-19 spring. So, Raiha, the microphone is for you. And remember, no more than 10 minutes. 8 is the best. And then after, we have time for comments. Go.
Okay, thank you. I try to be brief. Actually, when there was the idea of organizing this online conference and also to deal the COVID-19 topic or the theme or the ongoing pandemic as part of the conference, so I was sort of thinking that, okay, I do not do any research that would be related to the pandemic. And at the same time, there were quite many things worrying me in a new way. And this is actually the background for my paper and the kind of an new awakening to what nature really means to me, and what we might need to think in a new way in terms of a relationship between nature and us human beings. And in that sense, in my if I would paint a picture, there would be in the same picture the sociocybernetic thinking, and there would be the person called Raya who tries to be a reflective practitioner, and also my field of practice at the moment, which is actually the field of education. I come from the practical field of social welfare, and at the moment I'm as my major work, I'm teaching the future professionals to work in the social welfare. And I feel many responsibilities there as in my role of a teacher, and also a lot of confusion as well. What am I really teaching these young people? Of course, we also have older students, but in any case, what am I actually teaching to those who are going to work with people in this world? And in that sense, the relationship between nature and human beings comes very, very practical, especially in terms of the ecological crisis. And to me, I'm not saying that the theme of ecological crisis would be something new. We have known these things for a long time from research, how we are consuming our natural resources in a accelerating speed, and actually destroying the future of our future generations or a current generation. So it's like a matter of seriousness, and in that sense, the COVID-19, it just actualized somehow the meaning of the ecological crisis in my thinking, and also in the discussions we've been sharing with my colleagues, and the kind of a frustration in being part of the educational system. As you may know, Finland is very well known of the wonderful educational system. We do a lot of trade. We go abroad and educate people how to educate people. That's one field of industry, so to speak. So it is not only the critical question to think about education in this time of ecological crisis. It's not only a Finnish question, but also in terms of what are we as Finns doing for the education, also in a larger scale. And in my abstract in the paper and the short video, I was referring to a book written by Veli-Matti Värri. This is actually a Finnish book written in Finnish, but I hope it will give us in Finland a lot of new type of thinking of whether we are educating not only in the field of universities, but also in early education and so on, whether we are educating young people and professionals to consumers, to competition, to that kind of a society, or whether we are able to switch the very profound ideas of the relationship between nature and humans, and also to integrate that kind of new thinking into our lessons, into our readings, and so on. And in that sense, I'm not going into any of the theoretical details anymore from Larry, but he's referring to many of those critical philosophers who have traced back the problematic roots of our technological development, our colonialization, industrialization, and so on. And we are so within that kind of thinking, also in the field of education, that it's hard to act differently. And that is actually, I'm going to finish with a question to this community where I can trust for an constructive discussion. So how to influence the system of education, and also there was the point of having strong organizations in the previous discussions. So how to influence when you are within the system and you have your personal responsibilities. Referring to myself as a reflective practitioner, how am I going to change something as I'm simultaneously working as a teacher and trying to take care of my responsibilities? So I just repeat the question to end my talk. How would you, with all your understanding of social cybernetics and in terms of theory and in terms of applications, how would you do a change in terms of taking better into consideration the time of ecological crisis? How to act in the field of education? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have more time to start. Bernard, you have the first.
Thank you, Jaime. Thank you very much for your talk, Reja. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Raya, yeah, thank you.
Raya, thank you. I just begin, as you were talking, I looked for the book by Barry.
Mm-hmm.
I found it's available, I think, but I can't. I need to register to buy it. It's not on Amazon.
Yeah, and it's in Finnish. Yeah.
It's in Finnish.
Yes, at the moment.
It's very easy to read.
He has been publishing also in English.
But this is a fascinating topic. With both the aspect of how the education curriculum should be changed, evolved to mirror the needs of the times.
Mm-hmm.
A huge topic, obviously, and also how does someone who is just a small part of a large system affect the whole? And the first one, I believe there's a tremendous role for cybernetics, sociocybernetics, to transform the curriculum. Mm-hmm. I myself wrote a small paper a few years ago called Education for Cybernetic Enlightenment. It is in the journal for Cybernetics and Human Knowing. But I'm very happy to send a copy to anyone who is interested. You'd have to email me. As for the second topic, and I mean, I'd say that the business about what we should be teaching our children or our students and our adults is huge. But I still want to, what do you do within as a cog, as a cog within a huge system? This is you must not despair. Continue to work as a change agent. That's the phrase that's been used in the past. This is where you're doing participatory action research, but anonymously. And you try to sow the seeds of what you consider to be the right ways of acting. So one of the things that I've done this in almost everywhere I've worked, because of my my second order awareness. Whatever institution I've worked in, I've always tried to foster good relations with everybody, and to be sensitive about opportunities to engage in conversation and steer people towards becoming more aware or sharing their thoughts and building, as it were, a kind of an informal community within the formal community. And these relationships are very, very important. Even if your goal is just to have a good time at work, it's a pleasure. But you can transform institutions from within. At certain points, it becomes critical that you have you have bosses, you have people in power who are not aware or not interested in what you're trying to do, and this is an unhappy consequence of it. Can happen. In my last job, after working for many years to build up a group that worked to do flexible learning, my boss, my line manager, because he was retiring, decided to close down my group. And he had no understanding of what we had done and how hard we'd been working for so many years. And for a few days, I was brokenhearted. I said to him, "What shall I do?" He said, "Oh, go away and do some academic-y things." I mean, that was his response. So it can be very frustrating, but there can be success, and you can find allies within the organization. And this applies to any organization, any time in your work setting. You can work for the good from within. Finished.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Patricia wants to talk.
Well, just to comment, thank you, Reka, for your presentation. And I think the situation now with COVID also places the education system and all the agents engaged in a crucial moment. Because I don't know you, but because most of us are engaged in academic institutions and so on, and we are wondering how it's going to look on September next term. No, if more videos, if Chemi knows about that a little bit because he's organizing our university or faculty, but we don't know how it will look like. If more technology, if people will be at their home, if they have computer, and so on. And of course, this has to do with the situation itself of the pandemics, but it also has to do with how the universities or the educational system itself is choosing to respond to this challenge. And it's not choosing reflexivity nor second order observation to do so. It's just like jumping into the technological sort of solution, which at the end might bring side effects. So I think your reflection is very important in order to, in the first point, I connect with Sarah's presentation, is like we have to explain and to key actors on their terms the implications of keep walking in the direction of we are running, no? Because and I'm just talking in the systemic in the educational system. I mean, other systems we might not be able to discuss with, but in our own systems, I like to think that we have the possibility to be an agent, an active agent, and provoke at least a bit of disruption within the system. Because indeed, and I like your reflection, is the matter of how these new students, you mentioned social services or something like. It's how they will learn to relate, how they will learn to engage, how they will learn, and this is very much our own responsibility. So I think it's really needed a second order observation, a collective second order observation on how we're giving these steps. And I take Sarah proposal that we have to do where we know the field, we know I like this idea, we know the field, we have to go there and make proposals, make small changements, because 1 year, next academic year will be crucial to how generations of students will relate to their future professional everyday life, no? So that's what I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Another lecture. Thank you very much. now, Sarah has the question, and that's the last, very short, because we are on the time. And final, Raya, you have the opportunity to talk again. Sarah.
Just two very short things. In innovation, we use something called biomimicry that will be very helpful for you, Rania. It gives a lot of insights on how to teach innovation, but without forgetting we are part of the world, we live here, and we have to be connected with the world. It's interesting, and we have to re-educate all of the system I study. And as you mentioned, and also Patricia mentioned, for instance, judges for many years forgot that they were talking to people. Now we have come back to the hearings, and when they see the person and the person saying, oh, there is a person there, it's amazing, but they have forgotten that. So I really relate that with what you both were saying. So we are studying human systems. We are humans and we are in the system. So thank you very much, and that was all. Not a lecture.
Okay. Thank you. Ilnur wants to give a short comment, but very, very short, not a lecture, okay?
Very brief. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very interesting, your talk. I'm wondering, as I know, it's Finland, one of the country which uses more applicable side of the education. Because as we use at this moment 2 different programs to give our lectures. One for theoretical departments, the other one is applicable side. Now they are going to collide for the next semester. Your experiences are very valuable because it is easy to follow sometimes theoretical lectures, but it is really difficult to use some certain kind of programs for the applicable side of it. Therefore, I'm looking forward to seeing your results. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. This is a short comment. And now we finish the first part of this session today. And as I promised at the beginning, we have now a short break, about 5 minutes, agree? We spend 1 hour and a half, and I suggest to be here in 5 minutes. If you want to go to the coffee or to the cafeteria or to your bathroom, it's your time, okay? See you again in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Hi, according to my clock is on my watch, is we are over the 5 minutes. Hello, friends. Are you there?
Hi, Jaime.
Okay. So now I think we have to start again. Now we have 3 more papers. First is Czesław Mesjar from Poland, Complexity, Ignorance, and the COVID-19 Pandemic as a Social Construct in Information Society. Second, Juan Carlos Barrón, Juancho, Discussing Infodemic in USA Using Critical Sociocybernetics Tools. And third, José Amozurrutia and Verónica Espinosa, Qualitative Analysis of Twitter Publication or a Segment of Mexicans Around COVID-19. So our first speaker is Czesław. We in the first part of the session. You have.
Okay. Hello, welcome to everybody. I have some technical problems. I'm not so familiar with this system, but it's pretty simple. I don't know how to share my screen. I'm more familiar with Zoom, so I don't know, because I've already sent you my presentation. But if you permit, maybe if I show my screen right now here. So what it's showing here? Oh, it's showing you. And then I'm just searching what I have. Maybe I'll do something else. And can you, sorry, we have technical problems. Okay, good. But you will see here. Here is good. Okay, so let me moment. Okay. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, but more or less.
Because I don't see it. I don't see it. Okay, good. So you are. Okay, good. You see my presentation. Let me just make it the entire screen. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Hello?
Perfect.
Okay. Good?
Perfect.
So I don't see anything else, but I see my presentation. So I imagine that you are there.
Okay. It's okay, Czesław. It's good.
Okay, good. So if everybody can see it, so okay. So let me go very quickly. I've sent already this presentation. I'm working for some time. For a long time. I've worked on the topic complexity and ignorance, most like the book and so on. So and suddenly came the COVID pandemic or COVID. So that's a good example of the illustration to this project. In 2 weeks from now, there will be another conference, a complex system, which was originally designed to be held in Boston by New England Complex Systems Institute with qualitative, specialist in quantitative complexity. So I will talk about something else because we prepare a very technical project management. It's only an introduction. By the way, if you know somebody, a microbiologist who could join us or could join me with this project, I'll be more than happy because it's a matter for a good text. But now coming back to the point. So what we observe when we look deeper, but not superficially, when you look deeper from complexity, whatever it may mean, because as you know, we don't know what is complexity, how it can be defined very different ways. So we can observe something fantastic from an intellectual point of view. I must say that I feel slightly uneasy because, as you know, that I'm so interested partly in complexity and security complexity, game theory, and so on. And it was just beyond my attention that the fact or the presentation by Bill Gates, it was in 2017 or so, or earlier, when he showed that now the main threat for today's society are the pandemics. Are they not? It was after SARS, after HIV. It's quite interesting. And now I'm trying to develop a little bit more on this. What is information society? So it's quite interesting. There are plenty of slogans, but basically, what is information society from a more rigorous point of view? A large part of activities are in the symbolic. It's quite business, money. Now We have a new consequence of this, for instance, negative interest rates. The banks don't want our money any longer. Quite interesting. Then what is also essential, decoupling those activities, the human activities from the tangible aspects. So it has also some deep consequences. I could talk for hours about each of the line of this presentation, because I said that I have plenty of sorry, I will talk about this maybe when we finish our examinations. We have now the master's defenses when I'm busy tomorrow. Then from theoretical point of view, we observe increasing role of interpretative approaches, social constructivism, as I am a moderate social constructivist. Well, now when you look deeper at complex, and if we know something about complexity, so we always admit that we don't know something, even in the complexity theory, which is, as a matter of fact, only a class of equations. So we declare our ignorance. So we have, in this case, multiple challenges: how to define complexity, defining knowledge, and multi-level ignorance. Then virus. Here I need a cooperation from microbiologists, not just because of the matter of time and the interest to increase the quality of my research, of the research of the teams. We don't know. Virus is a complex biological concept. By hard complexity, understand computable complexity, that you can make mathematical models and so on and so forth. So in biology, we don't know origin, natural or partly artificial. So it's both biological and social. Existence, speed, harmfulness, mutations. But when you look closer, so there are plenty of confusions, even at the level of biology, of the biological research. I talked to some professors of microbiology, and sometimes they are confused. Then the validity of the test. Probably everybody has heard about the story that the papayas were also affected by COVID-19, according to some of the tests. I don't know whether that's true or not. Treatment, identification, vaccination, drugs. It's all there. There's plenty of complexity from a biological point of view. Now we go virus as a complex social construct. Origins. I repeat just the same factors: natural or partly artificial, interpretations, trust. There's a lot of discussions that concerning this Olympic Games in Wuhan and so on and so forth. So there's this interpretation, information, virus as an information structure, and information society as, but more precisely defined, not only the slogans, existence of this virus, mutation, speed, harmfulness, validity of research. For instance, they say that the virus is mutating, but it's just natural. The viruses are mutating and so on and so forth, and that new mutations could be more harmful. Perhaps, we don't know, but people are getting scary. Then the problem of validity of the tests and treatment, identification, vaccination, all the problems, interpretations of vaccinations, it's becoming a political issue and so on. For instance, the masks and so on and so forth. So we may say that the virus is complex in social terms. It's information. Virus, as a matter of fact, it's information per se. When you look from a Shannonian point of view, because if you go deeper into the information theory, so Shannon developed information without meaning. Now, okay, once again, I could continue for hours about this. So that really is a complex social construct. And then virus information society is a new symptom of complexity of information society. What is interesting that Nassim Taleb, the father of the Black Swan, he will attend the conference in 2 weeks from now, he claims that the virus is not the Black Swan because it was predicted. Contrary to his heavy tales or fat tales from statistics that made them famous, of course, but it was shown only in the Hollywood movies, and nobody took too many specific measures. So so in this case, if we assume that complexity expresses a part of our ignorance, so it's a social construct under the conditions of ignorance. In biological, in computable terms, and in social terms. And then we have negative consequences, misinterpretations, political conflicts, virus used for political struggle, and so within the countries. And then what is definitely important, that this kind of information, a type of virus is a kind of information, is a very important future security threat. But we have to look at this from this point of view as the social concept. As I've said, it's only introduction till the end of this month. I have no capacity, but probably I will write something about this, and so to start to present, to discuss it in detail. So questions for governance and for social cybernetics in this case. First of all, complex. When I say, okay, virus and society is complex, we are ignorant. What do you not know? Then there is another trap, but it's not necessary here, but in my research it's important. What is knowledge? It's a very trivial question, but when we define ignorance, we have to define what knowledge is. So then the classical triad of ignorance, what we know, what we know, what we do not know, and what we do not know that we do not know. And that here come other questions. Why we do not know that we do not know? That's an important problem. We have challenges for hard computational complexity for the biologists. For instance, it should be like this, that we have to decompose the virus into its characteristics, and then to study what is complex in this virus, identification, tests, measurement, mutation, and so on. So that's why I need a microbiologist for support, but I will find somebody. It's not a problem in Poland or elsewhere. And then a non-computable complexity, the social interpretations. And then what is important here from our point of view, as we know that ignorance concerns the future, and it's trivial, but what is important here for social cybernetics is to study what are the socio-political sources of ignorance, biases, secrecy, political conflict. So this is the core issue here. How to study this, what we do not know, but truly we have to go to the roots, or at least the framework that I will propose in a couple of weeks or months or so. So how do we construct this virus from first from a biological point of view, and then how we build the social construct on this biological basis in social terms. And then we have those political consequences or institutional consequences. And just an introduction. So I'm not I'm saying that this is not it's not anything we just read. It was absolutely ready, but just first reflection. But definitely, I think it should help us in the future considerations at this deepest level of comprehending of this. So thank you for your attention. I'm glad that I can present it at the meeting of RC51. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Czeslaw. 10 minutes, okay. And now we have the opportunity to continue talking 5 minutes more. Any comment? Anyone to talk?
I have asked to make a comment, Jaime.
Okay, go.
Thank you very much, Czeslaw. I found this to be a very useful summary of maybe even all the issues, but many of the issues. And I just want to give an example of how difficult it is has been to grasp what is happening in one's own country and also around the world. For some reason, most of the news media report things in absolute numbers. They say today in the USA there were so many deaths. In the UK there were so many deaths. Here in Spain there were this, and so on. It's absolute numbers. And I went crazy. I said, why aren't they reporting in deaths per million of population or deaths per thousand? And I had to go online to do a search, and I found sites which gave much more detailed breakdown of what was happening in each country in terms of the rates of infection per population size, because a small country and a large country are very different. But also there are other factors in terms of population density and so on. It's just a small example of how difficult it was for me as an ordinary citizen to understand what was being said in a meaningful way. I sent a message to the BBC saying, please, will you report things in relative numbers, not just these absolute numbers? Of course, nothing happened. So this is the question of, I know what I don't know, but it was hard to find out. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Czeslaw, do you have any answer?
You know, that only one point. I didn't specify all the aspects of the virus. For instance, the models of pandemics are typical models of hard complexity, you know, mathematical networks and so on and so forth. But there are 2 points. You know, the validity of the models. That, for instance, in this project that I'm planning, we have to present the typology of those models. That's the first problem. That may be the weaknesses, and the second point is to get the data. You know, if there are some gossip saying that they count the COVID-19 because of economic reasons. I'm not searching for anything, you know, let's say mystical, but just trying to show fact after fact and so on and so forth. This story from Italy with the military trucks carrying the coffins. Have you seen that? Did you see this on TV? No. It was a very depressive scene, you know, in the night. The military trucks in Italy carrying the, transporting the coffins. You know, absolutely. It was in the beginning. I was much more scared than I'm now in the beginning of this, let's say, of COVID-19. But the explanation was purely technical. They closed the small funeral houses. And the only institution that could provide a mass transportation was the army. That's all. So this is the, and as to finish, I'm not too much. This is the core problem. I'm only signaling, and we can develop more of this. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I want to read the first paragraph of the book of Robert Proctor and Londa Svigner about agnotology, the making and unmaking of ignorance. And they start the book writing, we live in an age of ignorance, and it is important to understand how this came to be and why. Our goal here is to explore how ignorance is produced or maintained in diverse settings through mechanisms such as deliberate or inadvertent neglect, secrecy and suppression, document destruction and question tradition, and immediate forms of inherent or avoidable cultural political selectivity. So I recommend to explore the idea of agnotology. If you like the book, I have a PDF, and maybe you could increase the perspectives in your presentation, Czeslaw.
You know, I know what I'm studying agnotology. That especially when you look very, very deeply into this, it was studied by the ancient philosophers. So the key question that somebody raised against, in reference to this, is very simple. What is different? There's only one difference, 2 basic differences. One difference is that it's not only the information overload. We have problems with assigning the meaning. This is something new, because from the point of view, a formal logic, Aristotle, you know, Socrates, they knew almost the same. So there's the first main point of difference, and the second problem of difference when you start agnotology is that in the past, people said it was the divine problem. We cannot explain this. And now we, the mortals, we pretend that we are capable to explain everything. So we are attempting to explain everything. We admit that we are ignorant at the second level. Okay, thank you. I could continue, but it's just a message. Thank you.
Any other question? Last question, if you want. No questions? Well, we spent more than 15 minutes talking with Czeslaw. So I suggest to go to the next speaker. And I think next speaker is Juancho. Okay? It's your time.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to participate in this very special conference, and I'm very happy to be just after Czesław's presentation, because I think that we will be in many ways connected. And well, it's good to see you, my friends. Well, okay, I'm going to talk about something that is just next to the pandemic, which is the infodemic. Infodemic, according to the World Health Organization, it refers to an overabundance of information, some accurate or some not, that make it hard for people to find trustworthy sources and reliable guidance when they need it. And of course, since the COVID-19 crisis began, infodemic has been part of it globally. And well, I'm studying this in the United States, and of course, I'm living this in Mexico. So these are my reference points about how this is working. I would like to say two things before starting. One is that I'm trying to develop, as you may remember, what I call critical sociocybernetics, which is seeking to offer an explanation about how certain hegemonic social groups and how certain populations are steered in specific territories, in specific spaces, how they are conducted. Well, I work mainly studying the functioning of the media system in the cyberspace of North America. So, and well, as you may remember, in USA, they may have the worst social and political reaction to the pandemic worldwide. So I'm studying now how could be the role, what was the role of infodemic in such a dreadful response. What I'm going to try to explain very fastly is that infodemic is much more than misinformation and fake news, as the World Health Organization has stated. What the hypothesis I'm following, and the feedback I would like to have from you, my friends, is that infodemic is formed by a pathogen agent and provokes different symptoms according to the characteristics of specific activities. This is following the idea that has also delivered Czeslaw. The virus is information, and information becomes viral. And we use this expression. So I'm trying to find out how, I don't know, media reports, memes, images, and of course, lots of informations that we cannot know if we can trust or not, coming by WhatsApp, coming by Messenger, coming by Facebook. They are bringing us so much more information that we can process. And so what I'm watching here is that the infodemic is not only the fake news, but it's this pathogen agent and provokes different symptoms. That's the sociocybernetic aspect. But also the critical aspect is that it may have a strategy. What I'm following is the idea that there is a strategy of expansion of cyberspace and a new form of capitalism that is amplifying an instrumentarian power that I'm calling digital capitalism, as many others, of course, other authors. I discussed this idea of the concepts of digital capitalism, surveillance capitalism, information capitalism, information society, all these possibilities. But what I'm trying to explain is that infodemic can be understood in this way. It's important to mention that the creation of the infodemic it is necessary to have an event. And according to the previous studies and the transformation of my own interpretation of Niklas Luhmann about the programmatic fields, I think that now we can focus on the first programmatic field, which is what is happening. How does this programmatic field works? Well, it's about telling us the events about what is going on, and so the event is something that not only tells us how things will be different from now, but also reconfigures what has happened before. It produces emergent properties in the past and in the future. So the infodemic is recreating the whole social system, and we can see it, for example, in the transformation of history that we can see in the symbolic act of destroying certain monuments in the cities after the Black Lives Matter movement. And so we are now transiting to a new position we are calling a new normality, and we are always talking about the new normality in the future, but this virus is also creating a new normality for the past, a new explanation about how things became to this point. So I'm studying this as an event, and many of the trends that we discussed last year in Urbino are now reinforced because of the pandemic and the infodemic. Many of the things that we were discussing that were like science fiction about how the corporations are operating within the systems of media, telecommunications, and energy, they are facing a boost, while the full economy is collapsing. Well, not the full economy, but most of the economy is collapsing. The systems of media, telecommunications, and energy are boosting, are getting richer. In the United States, the richest men are now richer, those related to this kind of businesses. So, as I'm saying, what I'm trying to explain is that there is a pathogen agent and provokes different symptoms. I will let you know how I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about this as a communication pathology, as Václavic explained it, not as a sickness, but as a way to do pathology, pathos, as a way to follow. And communication pathology, we can understand that there is no possibility of not communicating. So the more we are inside of this media, the more we communicate. And second, we used to think that the potential deformations of communication were tending to have like a perfect communication. And now we understand that perfect communication can only happen in artificial intelligence and non-human communication. At the human level, the communication is always imperfect. It's always becoming better, maybe. And then this is important because as we are thinking that we have to improve and to reach this perfect communication, we are getting more and more inside the media system and inside the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence instead of human communication. What's going to happen with this? So how this affects society, the excess of information. So what I'm saying is that the pathogen agent and the symptoms can be studied. The proposal, I'm just sketching, is a 4-dimension model to understand the pathogen agent. that is related to transparency of the actor that is delivering the information, the verificability of the information we are delivering, the replicability, which is about the potential replication and reproduction of the virus, and the durability, which is how long it is replicated. And so with these 4 dimensions, I'm trying to create a possibility to map the ubication and the power of every pathogen agent. Also, as I'm saying, I'm trying to understand that this is affecting in a differentiated way to people. So I'm trying to classify the symptoms in communicational symptoms, psychological symptoms, and ideological symptoms. The communicational ones are related.
Juancho, llevas 12 minutos.
Yes, thank you. The communication symptoms will be the definition of contents, the interdefinition of identities and relations of power, and problems related to the interpretation and translation. The psychological symptoms will be related to cognitive, emotional, and behavioral aspects, and the ideological ones will be related to beliefs, desires, and fantasies of those subjects or collectivities. So I'm sharing this reflection with you because well, I am preparing this with paper, and I will be very happy to have any feedback for this, and hopefully I will be able to finish this proposal very soon. So that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Juancho. Today is the longer in the talk. First comment is from Bernard Scott, and second Toru. So Bernard, short, please.
Very short. Thank you, Juancho, for this wonderful talk. What I like about RC51, Sociocybernetics, is each time we come together, I learn so much. We all learn so much. You've expressed concerns that I've had, but I'm not aware of in detail. So please send me the reference to PACE. But what I'm seeing here, on the one hand, I talked about the emerging global conversation where all the good people, the meek people of the world, of the earth, come together to empower themselves. And you have presented this picture of the dark side, the digital capitalism, all these horrible things which are going on. And I just thank you for raising my awareness. And I wish to learn about your research as you proceed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Toru, it's your time.
Thank you, Juancho. It was interesting to me because I am now concerned that the pandemic is enhancing the surveillance of the government, giving it codes to track people more intensively than before. Peter Sorokin, an American sociologist, once pointed out that the calamities means natural disasters, pandemics, political crises, such as and so on, tend to increase governmental control. Recently, the Japanese government launched the COVID-19 contact tracing app for the smartphone. But fortunately, the app is not popular among the people. So my question is about the possibility of simultaneous enhancement of surveillance state and surveillance capitalism, as you discussed. It's simultaneous enhancement of surveillance in political side and in economic company side. I think this can bring about some post-pandemic dystopia, 21st century style of 1984 society. What do you think, Juancho? I need your comment. Thank you.
Juancho, the last comment before your answer is from Jorge Cardiel.
Nice.
Jorge,
Okay.
go.
Jorge.
Yes, hello. Hi, and I would like to also pose a question to Juancho. So, in your research, have you encountered some strategies that help to overcome these pathological patterns of communication? And if you could talk about this, which tools perhaps are actors developing to distinguish between the qualified information and the bogus information? Thank you, Juancho, for your talk.
I missed the core of the question of Jorge. Anyone please repeat it to me, please, because something.
Maybe you can write in the chat and you start to talk about the first two questions, because we are on the time and the next speaker is Pepe and you have only 1 minute to answer.
Okay. So should I answer?
Answer, yes, but
okay. I will tell. Well, thank you very much, Bernard, Toru, and Jorge for your comments and questions. I will focus more on the Toru question now, but because I couldn't understand very well the Jorge's one because of something happened with the internet, but we can chat about the Taurus. I think well, this is quite difficult to explain, but or to state. But the corporations and governments are part of institutional organization of hegemonic actors in society. What I'm trying to study when I study the media system is that interactions between actors, they create the system, but there are certain nodes that are more powerful than others and create a kind of attraction of gravity by pulling certain attentions, let's say, to create more information about certain things. So these nodes, gravity nodes of information, are what they are seeking to gain power in the media system. So on the one hand, the internet is a military tool that is now in the commercial stage. On the other hand, the commercial stage has grown so much that they are also becoming more interactive or more balanced powers between both. But we shouldn't forget that these tools are mainly military tools. This is, for example, the situation with Huawei in the world, that we know that the 5G technology will bring us to a new level of sharing information. But there are also concerns from the governments, especially for those colonial governments that used to have the power of spying, and then they are losing the monopoly of spying. They are very worried now. And so now the USA and the UK are very worried about the powers of spying of the Chinese state. So these actors, when we see it in the system level, I try to just to understand that they follow their own interests and their own code, and not to get too much engaged on if they are political or corporative powers, because they can become one or the other. As people, as persons, they change of position, and they are suddenly in a corporation, and in the next year they are inside of a government. So that's why I take them as nodes, gravity nodes of information. I'm not sure if I'm explaining myself well, but I know I have a short time, so I will stop here. Thank you very much, Toru.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, sorry, because we have the last 15 minutes for the last paper of this day of our conference. The last speaker are Pepe Amozurrutia and Verónica Espinosa. They will talk about qualitative analysis of Twitter publications for a segment of Mexicans around COVID-19. So Pepe, Pepe is out of the of the session now. Pepe or Verónica, is your time. Pepe, I think Pepe.
There is Pepe. Pepe is now again. I think he wants to open your mic and maybe he go out, but he joined it now.
I imagine.
Pepe, are you there?
Pepe or Veronica?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Go.
Good day, everyone. I am happy to participate in this session that is linked with the pandemic area. I wish and I hope that sociocybernetic researchers will contribute to a better research of COVID in our countries and in the world. I am presenting this paper with Dr. Verónica Espinosa. She has used the system CIAS that we'll explain, and she made a research about the hospital, medics, nurses, and peoples in her state, Michoacán, in Mexico. Our paper is on a social Twitter network to analyze qualitatively the feeling of the Mexican in COVID-19. This is a short investigation, but it has our main research question. And this is, what is a cognitive transformation in qualitative social analysis in Twitter in the pandemic area? And I will say what means a cognitive translation. It's a cognitive transformation. No, a cognitive transformation is about as a cognitive distance between the intelligences and social subjects in activities. It's a distance of knowledge. The calculation associated with system CIAS that I mentioned, the system means adaptive system for social analysis complex in the epistemology. We have already proposed a systemic application for our definitions for analysis purposes. And we have been using that system in interviews, but not in sentences of social networks. They are very short. The system theory comes from the genetic epistemology of Piaget, but we want to incorporate the epistemic knowledge of short sentences in small statements in social nets. We have two main questions to the problem: how to evaluate a cognitive transformation in social nets, and which is the cognitive process are represented in the Piagetian theory. We select 7 themes: economy, statistics, politics, health measures, solidarity, recklessness, and uncertainty. Our epistemology transfer is based on the concept of a dynamical cognitive field. And this is a field that integrates the genetic epistemology from Piaget. The transformation in the cognitive. Yes, I will explain this part of the system. The transformation is the cognitive zones that considers the assimilation, the abstraction and generalization zones, and the 3 dialectic areas. The 3 main activities for translations in each zones are the next ones: the perception with emotions for social sense. Emotion is important. Organizing information in sciences and matrix. And finally, to make a relative totality or a subsystem component in the text. The personalization level, that is another transformation information, has three options. To select one person, two persons, or many persons. So we have 9 transformations in each of the zones. And we have 75 different evaluation zones. The challenge of the analysis is to find the transformation and to evaluate them in a basis from 0 to 10. I will say something about the results. The Twitter text in solidarity is free. Excuse me. Yes. In transformation, we analyze that it starts from the basic idea that evolves into a thought of solidarity. And in this affirmation of the text, we put an identification of, that means reflexive abstraction with 0.7 of valuation. And we hope that there is a balance between these ideas that is acceptable. After 10 to 20 Twitter sentences for each date, we said that solidarity has the next affirmation. There is an interest in solidarity in supporting systems. Many expresses the need to be untitled and create support networks. This through social actions, associations, volunteers, donations, and support centers. We present a general observation of the themes, and these conclusions are taken before the most difficult moments of the pandemic in Mexico. Today, we have different moments, and we have to research these dates. In all the themes, the people say, the users express dissatisfaction on people who did not follow good processes before COVID. Those with responsibility, they carry the pandemic express, and their feelings about those people whose acts show recklessness in the situation. We are now reviving analyzing the temporal analysis, with more dates to analyze the diachronic behavior of the pandemic. Thanks for your attention.
Okay.
It's done, Jaime. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your presentation. We have 5 minutes before to finish. So if you have any question, now is the moment. I don't know if some of you wants to start. Juancho, go.
About the bots in Twitter, which are actors that can produce and amplify lots of or I don't know how to yes. About the bots that are actors that amplify and reproduce lots of information according to the interest. How do you what do you think about these bots, Pepe?
Pepe, open the microphone. The microphone is closed. Pepe, your microphone is closed.
Okay, thank you. In the research we did, we had only 4 dates. And we can see the bots by looking the same or the similar same text. We did not pay attention to the bots. We only want to count them and to see the main transformations and thinking thoughts of those bots.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think it's much better to stop here because we decided to finish our conference at 4:30. And now we have only 3 minutes to finish the session today. Okay. And thank you very much, Pepe. Thank you very much for your presentation. Sorry for stopping here, but I think it's better to finish. And we said in Spanish is mejor acabar con buen gusto que acabar harto. Entonces, I don't know how to translate to English, but it's... Patricia has the last sentence, is our president, and maybe you can introduce the next session for tomorrow. And Patricia, please close the session.
Yes, well, thank you very much to all the participants. It was a really good second day of the conference. And thank you to all the presenters. Tomorrow we will have an interactive session, more interactive than we have been doing. And Luciano Gallón is the chair tomorrow, so he actually will give the specific instructions. We will meet again in this same channel, and we will get through the conclusions of the conference, but also to an activity that we will collaborate in a co-working all together. So Luciano, please go ahead. And from my part, I just want to thank that this is coming along very well, but it's thanks to you that you're connecting and that you are you decided to be part of this. See you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Patricia. So it's just to say hello again to everyone. Thank you for being here. Today will be day 3. We will be trying to build collectively a manifesto for Sociocybernetics. So the general instructions are simple. Follow the instruction, please. This will be a co-working session with an online board tool. So it's a kind of experiment. So please take it easy and follow the instructions. You have to take care of others' ideas because the board is so open that you can, for example, erase ideas of others. So please take care and, of course, participate. So the homework for tomorrow is simple. We will be trying to do a manifesto. So please think on these 3 dimensions for a Sociocybernetics manifesto. Sociocybernetics, what for? Sociocybernetics, why? And Sociocybernetics, what? I think that is the invitation for tomorrow's work, and I hope you will be joining it and participating on it. Thank you, Patricia, and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Remember that this is an experiment, so this is the last part of our collective experiment. Join us tomorrow in the same channel. Thank you for everyone. Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches.
Gracias, Pati. Gracias, Luciano, Chaimer. Todos, gracias.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Hay un perro por ahí.
Bye.
Adiós hasta Argentina.
Bye.
Goodbye, friends. Thank you, Czeslaw.